We've got another new beer from Sainsbury's. Yep, they just keep on coming. This is Hush. This is a pale ale from Unity Brewing. But what's it going to be like? Can it be as funky as the cover? Keep on watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're reviewing Hush. This is a pale ale, 5% from Unity Brewing. Don't know much about Unity. I probably have had the occasional beer from them, but it's not a brewery that we've seen, that I can think that we've seen in the supermarkets before. And this is called Hush. Yeah, it's a funky looking can. I think it looks quite bright and quite inviting in terms of can artwork. In terms of the hops, though, this is where it sort of gets a little bit interesting. It says it's a juicy pale ale brewed in our house style, but with UK Chinook hops even. Chinook hops. And for me, Chinook is a hop that is much more associated with West Coast IPAs, pale ales. It's the sort of thing you get in things like, Sierra Nevada pale ale. So I'm expecting a little bit more bitterness, a sort of probably non-hazy, not a hazy sort of IPA, pale ale, sorry. But it did say it's also got Mosaic and Vic Secret on the dry hop. So let's crack it open, get it in the glass, see what it's all about. I wanted to buy this from Sainsbury's. I think it's £3.50. Like all the beers that seem to be coming in Sainsbury's, they come in at a higher price, and then if you wait a week or two, they come down in price. I'm not sure why that is, but I think that if it doesn't sell so many units, they think, oh, we've got to drop the price. But let's get this beer into a glass. Well, certainly from the pour, this is a hazy pale ale. I mean, it doesn't look very West Coasty. It's a yellow, hazy sort of beer, like a lot of the hazy pale ales we've had. Yeah, I mean, there's a fair bit of carbonation there sticking to the bottom of the glass, but we've got two fingers of head, and the head actually looks very sort of compact. I think it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good in the old Polly's glass there. Yeah, I mean, actually, when I look at it in the screen, there is a slight orange sort of tinge to it, but it's definitely hazy. You can't see me through there. So that I think that looks pretty good. So I'm more excited about it now, because I think it's going to be more of a hazy, and maybe the Chinook is used differently. It's not going to be as bitter. So let's get the aromas. It smells really nice, actually, but I'm not really picking up much in terms of a distinct fruit. There's a tropicalness about it. There's orange, and there's peach and passion fruit, mango, even a bit of pineapple in there. It smells pretty good, though. It smells inviting. So let's tuck in. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, taste-wise, you get a bit more. It's a little bit less fruit up front, and there's a little bit more, I don't know whether I'd call it bitterness. I mean, just a little bit more earthiness, a little bit more, not pine. Let me have another to go. It's a little bit piney, a little bit sort of woody, a little bit earthy. I think is the best sort of description. I wouldn't call it bitter, really, but it's got this fruit, and it's followed up with this sort of quite an earthy sort of profile. I'd almost think this has got a load of Simcoe in it, but it hasn't. It's that sort of, I think maybe the Chinook is acting a little bit like this, like you would expect with Simcoe, that sort of earthiness. I wouldn't say it's bitter, and I think I'm really sort of trying to grab in terms of pine. I don't think it's overly piney as well. There's just a little bit of earthiness there, but it's quite up front. So it's really difficult to capture the sort of the fruit flavours that you get. It's juicy. Maybe a little bit of melon in there. It's a really difficult one to describe, but the other thing I would say about it, it's a really creamy sort of beer. for a 5% pale ale, it's got a really lovely body, really, and it's very sort of creamy. I mean, you can, if I'm showing you the head there, I mean, look at that. That to me is like an IPA. In terms of that head, that's like an IPA. Yeah, the body's not as thick really, and it's still quite light. But whether it's the foam on it just gives this real creaminess to it. But I'm still really trying to struggle. I'd probably say there's a little bit of pineapple in there, a little bit of orange and passion fruit. But it's a difficult one because you get this woody, almost earthiness a little in there. Almost a little bit of a peppery taste. And there is a very sort of subtleness in bitterness, a real subtleness in that it really rounds the beer off and you get this sort of, this very slight coating, but it's not overpowering. I think I'll have to have about 3 or 4 of these to actually work out what the flavour is. But one thing I would say, it's very good. And it's a very different sort of beer. You're not going to have a beer like this, a pale ale, that's going to taste like this. So you're getting juiciness, but it is literally just like juiciness and flavour. It's very difficult to pick out distinct fruits. There's an earthiness there. There's a creamy sort of body. And then you get this very slight touch of sort of bitterness, a little bit of pine in there. You're not getting much in. There's probably a little subtleness of grapefruit as well. There's a lot going on in this beer, and it's probably going to take a few drinks to actually work out whether what it tastes like. But if you're just a person that likes to drink beer, I think you'll enjoy it. You know, I'm trying to overanalyze it a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's that mouthfeel's brilliant. It's creamy. You get a first hit of juice, but then you get a lot of earthiness, and that's it. That's what sort of stays in your mouth. That's the thing. That's the big takeaway from it. I think the Chinook really sort of gives something. You don't get it much in hops that aren't, in beers, sorry, that aren't on that West Coast side. So to have it in a sort of hazy pale ale, which this is, it almost gives it a slight, and obviously maybe the Mosaic and the Idaho, the Vic Secret, sorry, are sort of battling with it, and it's sort of, there's an earthiness there, but there's a fruitness and a low bitterness there as well. So it's sort of, they sort of crash together. But I think it actually puts together a very good beer. So I'm going to say that this is a good beer, and I reckon it's worth giving it a try. Let me know if you have had it and what you think of it, whether you're probably, maybe you can describe it better than I can, but I think it's a good beer. So let's get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for Hush. This is a pale ale from Unity Brewing, available in Sainsbury's £3.50 at the moment. So I think it's a bit expensive for a pale ale, but it is a good beer. It is a good beer, and I think that if it comes down in price, it will make it a better beer, and you'll see that in the scores a little bit. Aroma first. Well, yeah, more I smell it, the more I'm getting a little bit more of that woodiness about it. That sort of, it's earthy, woody, maybe even a little bit of sort of white pepper sort of spice in there as well. But there's a juicy fruitiness about it as well that's sort of in the background a little bit. But it's certainly inviting, and I think it's a solid aroma, 12 out of 20. Appearance, well, I think for a pale ale, it looks pretty good. The head is great. I mean, it is a creamy looking beer, and it is a creamy tasting beer. And you've got a yellowy sort of hazy beer. I expected something a little bit clearer. I expected with Chinook it'd be a more like Sierra Nevada pale ale, but I think it's a pretty solid look, so I'm giving it 8 out of 10. Flavour wise, well, it's similar to the aroma. You're getting a lot of this earthiness, and to describe a beer as earthy and a bit spicy and a bit woody, it doesn't really appeal that much when you say it like that. But there's a juiciness in the background that's sort of pushing it through. And even though there's a subtleness of bitterness and a subtleness of pine, it's so subtle, you've got to really look for it. The star for me, I think it's got a really great mouthfeel. For a 5% pale ale, it's got this creaminess about it. Carbonation is really low. It's quite a light, thin body, but the creaminess that as you drink it, going through that froth really. Really sort of elevates it a little bit better. So I'm giving it 33 for flavour. Value for money, I'm giving it 7 out of 10. I think it's a bit expensive at the moment, but I expect, like all the Sainsbury's beers, will come down in price. And if you go in there in a couple of weeks' time, it's £2. It's definitely worth £2. But at the moment, I can only give it 7 for value. And my overall experience, well, I think the beer is still a little bit confusing in terms of the flavour, because it's a very untypical pale ale, whether that's in the supermarket or anywhere else. Because, you know, when you get hazy pale ale, you get all the juice. Sometimes it can be a little bit, you know, the flavours can be there, they can be, and that makes it a good beer. But sometimes they can wash themselves away, and the carbonations are very little bit more prickly. The carbonation is soft. The beer has got this creaminess about it, but it's not. There's no sweetness really in this beer. It's a very sort of, there's a very much earthy, subtle bitterness on the back end, with a really undescriptive sort of fruit flavour in there. It's a slight orange, a passion fruit, I think is the fruit. A bit of pineapple, but the earthiness sort of takes over, and doesn't make it bad. It doesn't overly coat your throat. It doesn't give too much of a bitter twang to it. It glides down really well, and I'm giving it 14 for overall experience. I'm enjoying this beer because it's something a little bit different for me, and it's certainly different in terms of the beers that I can't think of any other beer that's similar to this in the supermarket, so that's worthy of a buy, I think. So we top the scores up, we get 74. I mean, 74, it's a solid beer. Yeah, I mean, these Sainsbury's beers, there's a lot of really quite good ones in there. I mean, this is good. It's not quite, I mean, the last beer that I reviewed, which was the Beer by Numbers one, the Citra Pale Ale, just a little bit more refreshing and fruitier and lighter, and that got a little bit of a higher score. Pretty good. I mean, this is sort of in there with the likes of the Whetstone IPA. What was the other one that we've had? I can't even remember. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's quite as good as, say, Heaven, for example. It's probably better actually than the Tiny Rebel one. It's a good beer. It's a good beer, and it's different. And I think, you know, if you're in the supermarket and you see it, and if you look at it and go, oh, Chinook, I'm not really sure about Chinook. I don't see that in much hops. And always that going to be something a bit different. Give it a go. I think you'll like it. This is a very pleasant beer, and it's got some interesting flavours and a very good body. So, hope you've enjoyed that. I probably rattled on far too long for this review, but I quite like this beer. Hush Pale Ale, 5%. Give it a go. Unity Brewing. Let me know if you've had it, what you think of it. Can you describe it better than me? I'm sure you can, you know. I mean, I've been doing this for a few years now, but, you know, even once in a while you get a beer and you think, I'm sure there's a flavour I can pick out from that, but it's quite difficult to pick out the fruit flavours within this beer because of this sort of quite dominant earthiness. But, yeah, it's still great. So, hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I have literally just bought a big box of beers from Trembling Madness. You probably will see in the next, very soon probably, my unboxing video for that. So keep an eye out, and you'll see lots of really good beers. It's, you know, we've done a lot of supermarket beers this last sort of month or so, so it'd be good to get back to some of those other beers from the likes of Polly's and Daya and Verdon. A lot of the, you know, the breweries that I used before. We've got some great ones from Rivington, and we got a really interesting one from Vault City. So watch out for that video, and until then, and until the next one, you know what you got to do. Keep on rocking.